What's good with it, Black Goose TV family? It's your boy Fluence. I'm back at it again. You already know what time it is. Double salute in the building. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And I'm hoping y'all feel exactly the same way. Now, look, we going into a reaction video that's going to be more than a reaction video. You know what I'm saying? I've been talking a lot when it comes to the Hasim Rahman Jr. Jake Paul fight. I've been giving my little 2 cents when I'm watching the little open workouts from Rahman Jr. because I don't know much about him. I'm just trying to really figure out whether or not this is a cherry pick for Jake Paul, despite all of the amateur experience supposedly Rockman Jr. has, and also, of course, the professional level experience he has. Obviously, the narrative out, hey, this is the first boxer Jake Paul is fighting. So because of that, he's gonna get KO'd. Now, I'm not that type of guy, man. I've been doing the YouTube boxing and paying attention to the nitty gritty, the details for a little bit too long. Like I always say, I'm old to some, young to others. You feel me? But I understand not to feed into the narrative, man. You got to have an understanding of the game, of the boxing skill, the mindset, and all that good stuff, and be able to kind of create your own little, you know what I'm saying, idea of summary or what you think is going to happen so you're not swayed by the bullshit. So, recently I've been, watching these videos, putting my 2 cents out, and definitely been telling y'all what Jake Paul can capitalize when it comes to Rockman Jr. From that, you know what I'm saying? Y'all came and y'all was like, yo, bro, you need to drop a video saying how Jake Paul can win, what are the ways he can, what are the ways Rockman could lose, etc., etc. I've been meaning to do that and wanting to do that, but I'm trying to figure out specifically how because the way I see things is real time. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the type of person that I'm going to sit here and grab a whole bunch of clips and say, this is what he can use. And because I don't think that's real. You feel me? It's not real for me to be like, hey, I have 4 different clips of Rockman Jr. He looks like this in sparring. He looks like this in his last fight. And this is what Jake Paul can utilize. I don't think that's real as far as a guy who's trying to break down what can work. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that works as well when it comes to you having a fighter and you're trying to pick the very best opponent for your fighter to continue to build their career. When it comes to boxing, it's very, very, very interesting and it's not clear cut. It's not black and white, even though a lot of you supposed hardcore fans try to make it seem that way. A lot of you guys try to say Jake Paul is not a boxer, so he'll lose to a boxer. It's not that black and white, guys. You have to understand it's a sport. So if we're talking about a sport, at the end of the day, sometimes, some way, some instances, somebody can be absolutely gifted at that particular sport and maybe not have as much experience or been a part of it as long as somebody else who doesn't have as much, naturally gifts as the other person. That's just how this world works. You know what I'm saying? Some people are born into richness, other people are born into poorness. Some people are born into an amazing athletic build, and you have to figure out what you're going to do from it, while others aren't. They have to work their ass off. That's the life we live in. So people trying to make it different for boxing because you want to say it's a sweet science, and when you're going to approach a fight, you need to always have your hands up, and when you throw a jab, it comes back. Whenever I hear niggas try to be like his feet are slow and he doesn't keep his hands up and all this very rudimentary basic things for advanced level boxers, I would just say you guys have never been in the ring or you've never practiced anything and understand what it means to integrate yourself in something that's beautiful as a sport and being able to create it and make it your own and be able to capitalize off of it. So I just ignore all that bullshit. I say, hey, you're unathletic. You're sitting at home, you're watching shit on the TV, and you're saying what he should do. How about you get the fuck up and you try it yourself? That's always what I think because that's what I do. So, with that being said, in this particular, reaction video, we're gonna watch it. I'm gonna break some things down that I see that's bad. I'm gonna break some things down that I see that's good. I'm gonna break some things down that I think Jake Paul will be able to take advantage of. I'm gonna break some things down that I think Rockman will be able to utilize and take advantage of Jake Paul, vice versa. I'm just gonna give you guys a whole analysis of what I see real time, what can be capitalized off of both camps, and maybe even give you a breakdown and let you know why Jake Paul probably chose Rockman Jr. Now, I'm gonna let y'all know now. Reaction videos, period. We usually don't go that crazy. We usually don't go this long. Y'all can see the time already over on this joint. It's about 20 minutes. This is a whole open workout. I'm gonna get through as much of this as I can. We're either gonna do the whole video, we're gonna do none of the video. We're gonna do half of the video, or we're gonna do 25% of it. Whatever amount that we do, I'm gonna promise you right now, you're gonna be educated and you're gonna learn something. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, and if you ain't learning, you should probably rewind it, slow it down, man. Make sure that y'all are able to keep up with the shit I'm putting down. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this reaction video. But before we do, hit the like button for your boy, comment on this joint, and of course, the most important thing, subscribe to the channel. That shit is right the fuck there. Road to 5K before the end of the year. But let's go ahead and break this thing down. Y'all tell me about anything I say is wrong, and I promise you I'll be able to tell you how you don't know what the fuck you talking about. Let's get it.
Even more. Actually, even more. Why would you think more? Is it more speed, snap on it?
So I'm gonna turn it down. The music's gonna get me copywritten. So let's go ahead and just put it on that mute. So in the last footage that I was watching of Rockman Jr., I was very disappointed in his jab. I did not like what I was seeing from his jab because I think actually his jab is going to be the key to winning this particular fight. Okay. And the reason why I think his jab is going to be the reason behind winning this particular fight is because I think Jake Paul isn't seasoned enough in the game to understand and be able to find a way to get around a very, very good jab. Okay. In other words, I'm saying that Jake Paul, he will never be a boxer, okay? And that's not a disrespect to Jake Paul. A lot of people say, man, you're excuse me. A lot of people will say Jake Paul isn't a boxer. He doesn't know how to box. And they think that's disrespectful to Jake Paul. That's not disrespectful, guys. You have to understand when you say something like that, that's not a big deal, okay? Jake Paul is not a boxer. He can't box. Well, he can be a power puncher. He can be a guy who has a one-shot punch knockout. He can be a pressure fighter. Like, you understand, boxing is a particular style. And I know how you guys are going to be. You're going to be like, no, everyone knows how to box. That's wrong. Shut the fuck up. Stop talking about the people you don't like. Everyone does not know how to box. Everyone has an understanding, but you have to understand it's the same thing that you see in any other sport. In basketball, guess what? There's a guy that's 7 foot, but he's not really that good. But he might get to the sport because he might get to the NBA, or he might get to the professional league, might play overseas because he's 7 feet, right? That doesn't mean he's good at basketball. But then you have a guy like, hey, Nate Robinson, or you have a guy like, ironically, it's funny I said that, but or you have a guy like Muggsy Bogues, or you have a guy like Spud Webb. You have these short dudes who are physically gifted, but their skill level is off the charts. Isaiah Thomas, Chris Paul, right? They don't have the physical advantages, but they have the skill level. You have to look at boxing the same way. Like, this weird idea that boxing is different than other sports because it's an art. Shut the fuck up. It doesn't know. None of that. That's not real. All right. It's a sport. It's like everything else. Is entertainment. It's like everything else. So you guys got to understand. Look at Jake Paul and Logan Paul, right? Logan Paul is more like Logan Paul's over here, right? Logan Paul looks more natural at boxing. It looks like he'll be able to box. He'll be able to move, use his feet. So that's an advantage to him. Jake Paul, he doesn't look like that. When he looks very rudimentary, he looks very basic. He looks like he has slow feet. He looks like he telegraphs a lot of his punches. But you guys got to understand, just like, hey, I'm gonna draft Blake Griffin at number 3 in the overall pick, not because he has a great jumper, but because nigga he can dunk over everyone. And I'll pick Steph Curry at 12 because not because he's the most athletic, but because he might have potential. It's the same thing with Jake Paul. Yeah, no. He doesn't look like he's a natural boxer, but that nigga has a one-punch knockout power, whether it's a straight right hand or an overhand right hand. And that's what a lot of you fanboys or a lot of you haters miss, is that this is a sport. You don't have to be great at everything, but if you have an equalizer, you can utilize that, cherish it, polish it, and then turn that into something that can be effective in the game of boxing. That's why a lot of you guys hate Deontay Wilder, because you feel like he's not a boxer. He doesn't know how to box, but he has the equalizer with that right hand. A lot of y'all don't understand that being able to box doesn't mean I can jab all night and pivot and use my head movement and circle out of the way and do all these different things. That doesn't mean, like, yeah, okay, that comes into boxing, but when we talk about the sport of boxing, that's just one way, stylistic way of fighting. I'm a boxer. I stay on my back foot. I use my jab. I use my angles. And you have the person who's a pressure fighter. I'm a pressure fighter. I stay in front of you. I come forward. I make you uncomfortable. And you have someone who may not be good at either one of those. But guess what? If I land this motherfucking hand, you're going to be out of there. Then you have the other person. If I land this hook, we're talking about Danny Garcia in a reaction video, you're out of there. So for you guys to pick and choose and act like, boxing is a sport where, anybody can do it, everyone can do it, but at the same time, you don't have to. This idea of I got to start boxing at 10, 11, 12 years old is not real. At the end of the day, if a nigga starts at 18 and he has a crazy right hand, he's going to be able to utilize that and get pretty far if his team does it right. So now, with that rant being out of the way, to try and get you guys humbled a little bit, let's watch some of this workout, because I have been watching it. I think he looks a lot better than he did in the last workout that I watched. But at the end of the day, I still see things that Jake Paul will be able to capitalize off of. So I'm going to go into some of the things that I see Jake Paul will be able to capitalize off of. I also go into some of the things that I see good coming from Rockman Jr. as well. So first and foremost, what you guys all want to obviously hear is, what can Jake Paul utilize or take advantage of when we see this particular mid work coming from Rockman Jr. Well, the first thing I want to point out is that Rockman Jr. kept claiming that he's a natural southpaw. Okay, he kept saying I fight naturally from the southpaw. I usually don't fight orthodox. You got me when I was orthodox. I was being good. Now I did my own research. I looked up most of his shit, most of his fight, and a little bit I was able to find he's not a natural southpaw. He's actually also not a natural orthodox fighter. He actually is a guy who switches stances on a regular basis and seems to not be comfortable to a point where he wants to stay in one. There's a difference between what I saw from Rockman Jr. and maybe a Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford understands his goals for each stance. He understands if I'm in orthodox, I'm starting the fight. When I'm in southpaw, I'm finishing the fight. Rockman Jr., on the other hand, it seemed like he was trying to figure out what he felt most comfortable in and what came off the best. It seems like when it comes to training and when it comes to what he's doing here, he's going to be fighting from the orthodox position. Maybe that's because he feels like he won't be able to get hit with that overhand right or right hand as easily if he was fighting from the southpaw position, which I get. But at the same time, if you're a guy who's saying, hey, I'm naturally a southpaw fighter, I'm naturally a guy who's stronger from my southpaw, and I'm seeing a lot of your workouts leading up to this fight coming from the orthodox stance, shouldn't I be worried? Shouldn't I be worried? How is one of your main points, hey, I don't fight from that stance, but yet everything we're seeing is from that stance. Now, obviously, it could be something to throw off his opponent. Obviously, it can be something to make Jake Paul feel like maybe and his team to game plan the wrong way and say like, "Hey, you see all these workouts? I'm fighting from orthodox, so you better get ready for me. You know, fighting from orthodox." That could easily be the case. I understand that if that is the case, but I'm just going off of what's being shown to me, and he's fighting from orthodox for the most part. So that's the first thing I see that's a problem for me. And it's not even that. I think even if he was fighting from southpaw, I would still feel the same way because if you look at his past, if you look at a lot of his fights, if you look at a lot of his training sessions, sparring sessions, or what we were able to see or find that's on the internet, he's a guy who's not necessarily comfortable in either stance. He switches constantly, which is not a good thing, right? It isn't a good thing at all. So, and there we go, right? Right. And I said it. There we go. There goes a switch. Now that was a much smoother switch. That's the best switch of stances I've seen. But it's just like this is one of the reasons why, or this is one of the things that Jake Paul can take advantage of. If you don't have a game plan for each of the stances that you're working with, it's going to be a liability. As soon as you switch stances, you're taking away your range. That's why Crawford is so brilliant when he switches stances. He establishes a range in his orthodox. He makes the opponent that he's fighting get comfortable in a certain range that they're in that orthodox position. And as soon as he sees his opponent comfortable, he then switches stances. Which what does it do to his opponent? Now they're gonna have to reconfigure everything that they have going on. It fucks their head up, and now he can land a big shot they didn't expect. That's not coming from Rockman Jr. I see him switching stances just simply as a comfortability factor. So it's simply as I'm throwing orthodox. Excuse me, I'm throwing southpaw. It's my right hand. Boom, boom, boom. Having fun. Then we hit a corner. Then I can switch. And now we're going this way. That's all I see it. But it's not based off of precision. It's not based off of necessarily understanding range management. And that is one of the biggest things that I want to point out, and I think is going to be something that can capitalize off of Jake Paul, is the fact that Rockman Jr. does not understand range management. I can point out a lot of different things. I can point out the fact that he likes to stay in front of his opponents, which is not good for someone who has a heavy overhand right, has a heavy right hand. I can also point out the fact that, which I kind of did before, is that Rockman Jr. constantly is switching stances, which is not good for someone who's fighting an opponent who has a very beautiful right hand, because what that means is he can catch you when you're switching stances. Also, you can be lazy when you're switching stances, and the defense isn't as perfected when you do that switch of stances. Now, obviously, those things are there, but the most important thing that I think is going to be a problem when I'm watching Rockman Jr. is the laziness of the jab on both hands, and not understanding whether or not he wants, or excuse me, not understanding what he wants to do with the jab. There's different things that you can do with the jab. You can use that jab as a bait, right? I'm throwing it out, but it's lazy, right? I do a 1, 2, I bring it back here, right? Which means I'm showing all this is open. Now I'm not showing all this is open because I want you to hit it. I'm doing it as a bait. 1, 2, he throws a 2. Oh, pull counter, foul. Okay, or he throws a 2, pull, hook, right? Then 2, 3. Right, and that's when you're using a lazy jab. It's for a reason. Now, then you have the aggressive jab where I'm using it as a weapon. I'm here and boom, 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 boom. Everything is a shot. I want you to feel my jab over time. Get uncomfortable with my jab. And you've seen guys like what's a good Andrade has done that a lot, where he uses jab as a weapon. Tyson Fury has used his jab as a weapon. Triple G has used his jab as a weapon. Where I'm not like, nigga, you think this is a game? Like, nigga, you gonna feel every jab. where they get so obsessed with the jab, their opponent, where now the right hand comes along and it lands cleanly, or the uppercut, whatever the case may be. They're so focused on that goddamn jab getting out of the way of the jab. They don't understand it's being set up for them to get hit by something. But it's so powerful, it's hard for them to think. And then, of course, you have like I said before, you have that lazy jab where you're really just setting someone up for that counter. And then, of course, you have the range distant jab where maybe you leave it out here and you only bring it here, leave it out here, bring it out here. The difference between this and the lazy jab, you have a lazy jab which comes out here and it brings it back, is inviting your opponent to counter here, right? And there's a reason for it. Lazy jab, he counters, you know what I'm saying? Where it comes from a range management jab, I'm keeping my hand here the whole entire time. So if you do decide to counter, I'm here. Do decide to counter, I'm here. Do decide to counter, I'm here. Do decide to counter here, boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? And then ranging. So that's just my problem. So me describing all those different type of jabs, I think that's one of the biggest things that you're going to see Jake Paul be able to utilize against them, is the fact that Rockman Jr. He's going to be able to outbox Jake Paul because he's a better boxer than him. But my problem is that I think he doesn't know how to utilize that jab. Like when I watch his jab, it's always short. They're never really teaching him why he's using the jab. They're never really setting it up. And so I think because he's going to be so comfortable, which I've seen in his, in his other fights, his other open workouts, sparring, where he just gets so goddamn comfortable, he's not even going to realize he's going to be open for a big right hand or overhand right. That's what I think. I'm like, every time I see his jab being worked, every time I see him hitting the mitts, whatever the case may be, his jab is extremely lazy. And it's not his fault. It's just he thinks it's not a big deal that his jab is lazy. He doesn't think he's probably thinking to himself, like my whole entire game plan and the way I'm going to get a W has nothing to do with how aggressive my jab is, which I think is the wrong thing. I think the way that you're going to beat Jake Paul is to outbox him, use the jab, and then land something big. But I think because he has such a lazy jab, he doesn't utilize the jab, whether it's going to be a distance finder or whether it's going to be an attack, whether it's going to be a setup, because it's just something he just throws out there constantly. I think Jake Paul is going to time it. And he's going to be able to use the overhand right to be able to capitalize off of that jab, especially if it's in an instance where he's switching stances and he's tired. And so that's what we got to keep in fact here. Like, look at this open workout. Every time they're calling rounds, look at him. He's over there huffing and puffing. He's leaning against the ropes. That's not a good sign. You shouldn't be that tired. Even when they're calling rounds, you shouldn't even be going over to your corner. You should be keeping going. I don't care what weight class you are. Like, this is light work. They're not going hard. He's not throwing hard punches. So that doesn't look that great too. He looks in good shape, looks in great shape, but the cardio just doesn't look there. So what does that mean? I don't think he's going to have a problem with his cardio in the fight. But like I said, I think it's all going to come down to the jab. I think what's going to be his downfall is going to be the jab. His jab is just not there. And you guys, remember me saying this. You guys might not believe in me. If you see now in that last round, he looked very tired. You see how lackluster he's coming into this round. I don't know how good of shape he is, but the jab is just not there for me. I'm not happy with what I'm seeing. I can be overcritical. You don't want to show too much when it comes to these. So, I can be talking all this talk and you be like, hey, man, nigga, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you said. Ain't none of that the case. Ain't none of this, that. Ain't none of that. That's fine. I get that. You know what I'm saying? I'm an armchair warrior at the end of the day. But I will say this. I haven't seen too much improvements. He looks like more of a boxer. He looks more in shape than he did the last one I watched. Yes, I'll give him that. Looks a lot more disciplined. He's keeping the hands up. But the jab is still lazy. He's still switching stances for no reason. I do not like that. You don't need to switch stances in that particular. That there's no point for that. And unfortunately, the jab is lazy on both stances. His left hand in the southpaw position looks a lot weaker and predictable than it does on the orthodox. So that actually tells me that he's more comfortable in an orthodox position. His defense isn't looking good as orthodox. So I don't know, man. This is going to be an interesting fight. I'm going to be real with you. I think Jake Paul has a lot of ways that he can win. Psych. He only has two ways. He's going to land an overhand right or he's going to land it right? There's a reason why he picked Rockman Jr. because he's open for an overhand right and he's open for a straight right. It is what it is. Why? His jab. His jab is lazy, slow. When you have if you have a slow, lazy jab, you're always going to be open for a counter right, or hand or overhand right. Simple as that. So that's what I see from Jake Paul picking this particular fight. If I was his trainer, I would just work on his jab all day. I would make that jab fucking lightning speed, and he can outbox Jake Paul for 12 rounds, 5 rounds, 6, 8, whatever the fuck this shit is for. But, gotta make money, baby. You don't make fights without making money, man. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta make this thing interesting. Why give him a tool that's gonna absolutely outclass Jake Paul and just let him keep being who he is and be confident in who he is and go in there and then just see what happens, right? Who knows? That's my personal opinion, man. Look, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna, do crazy shit with this. We're almost done with this video. It's like 5 minutes left. There's no reason for me to keep going. It's really the same old, same old. It's really pitter pat, no hard punches, pitter pat. I'm not impressed, but at the same time, I still think it's gonna be a good fight. I think it's gonna be pretty evenly matched. But I still got Rockman losing, man. I like what I'm seeing. I like all the words coming out of your mouth. But I think you know what I'm saying. People say Jake Paul has a lot of yes men around him. A lot of these fighters do. A lot of these fighters have a lot of yes men around them. Okay. So it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think about this particular reaction video, longer than usual. But I was like, hey, then let me break this down as much as I can. Let you know what I see that's flaws. Let me, let you know if I see anything positive that may work. At the end of the day, if I do want to end with a positive when it comes to Rockman Jr., he can outbox Jake, period. He definitely can. But it's going to come down to his conditioning, and it's going to come down to how lazy that jab is going to get as the rounds go. Because, you know what I'm saying, when I see from that jab, when he's going to get tired, he's going to be there to be countered. He's going to be there to be countered with Jake's best shots, which is overhand right or straight. So we'll see, man. Drop below in the comments how you feel about this joint, man. Always like the video, man. Road to 5K. Subscribe to this joint. I'm done for the day. As always, on Schwarzenegger side of the game. I'll be back, but with more boxing. Stay blessed, not stressed. Y'all know, man, I've been working. I've been doing my goddamn thing. But I salute y'all, man, because I want to be doing this shit without y'all. So appreciate y'all. Double salute as always, man. Keep showing your boy love. Keep showing your boy love as always, man. Much appreciation, much blessings y'all way. Let's keep it motherfucking.